ancient Rome, to the planet Bajor, to the Batcave, matte painting has for nearly a century been a widely used method of depicting exotic locations.
Welcome to Make an FX. In this video, I'm going to apply methods used to help sell the oldest effect, matte paintings, and apply them to the newest, AI image generation. In my opinion, the best examples of AI use have been those for the matte painting type shots, when you don't have an artist on hand but need a background or establishing shot. But AI images themselves are static. And yes, the new AI video stuff seems impressive, although I do feel a bit like AI is being used to replace the fun, creative stuff. But let's use it as a tool. I've created this image from Adobe Firefly using this prompt with photo and hyper-realistic tags. When you generate images this way, the size is a little smaller than HD. After Effects can probably scale this up just fine, but I've got into the habit of using Photoshop. I've resized the image to 4500 pixels wide. This gives me some zooming in options. From the project panel, drag your image onto the new comp icon. This makes a comp the full size of the image. But let's go to Composition, Composition Settings, and set the duration to be 10 seconds long. That's actually quite a long time for a static image to be on screen. Don't be afraid to shorten this as much as you can get away with. The longer it's on screen, the more the flaws in the image will be noticed. So the first thing we're going to do is the sky. So duplicate your layer by selecting it and holding Ctrl and tap D. Then hit Enter and rename this to Clouds. And rename the bottom layer to Fixed or something similar. And then use the pen tool to mask out the sky. Go quite broad around the towers and spikes. Holding the middle mouse button lets you shift the stage around too. Duplicate the clouds layer and rename this to Towers. And double tap the M key to expose its mask properties. And feather it quite a bit. You can solo the layer if that helps. And then on the mask drop down, change the type to Subtract. Back on the clouds layer, tap P to expose the position property. And set a keyframe on the first frame. And then hold Shift and drag the clouds off to the left. Not a lot, as we'll need to worry about more of the whole image here. Now move to the end of your comp and drag the clouds to the right. And maybe feather the mask on the clouds a little too. And that's genuinely a trick matte painters used. They'd move the painting horizontally while filming to create movement in the clouds. But we can go a bit further. With the clouds layer selected, go to Effects, Distort, Liquify. And at the halfway point of your comp, set a keyframe for the distortion mesh. Then back at 0 seconds, use the Liquify tools to push and distort the foreground clouds. Then at the end of the comp, do the same in the other direction. What we're doing here is by creating two different types of movement, we make it harder for the eye to work out what we've done. Okay, now let's take a look at that pool. I found this stock footage of water on Pexels. It's handy because it's a tripod shot, so I don't have to stabilize it, and there's no reflections to worry about. Let's padlock our clouds and towers layer, then duplicate the fix layer again and drag this above everything. And call it Water Mask. And using the Mask tool, mask out everything that's not the water. And now let's add our water footage. And use the Track Matte dropdown to have it use the Water Mask layer as its mask. And then scale it up and position it so we only have the water. Something I like to do is to use the layer colours as my own shorthand to denote what they are. So I'm going to set the mask layer to purple. And I'll feather its mask too. And for the water footage layer, set its transfer mode to overlay. And there, some genuine ripples on the surface. But it has made it windy, and the wind is now in the opposite direction to the water on the clouds. so hit S to expose the scale options and uncheck the infinity icon and change the first scale value to its minus equivalent. With all that wind, let's have the trees flutter. I did experiment with keying here, but honestly it's simpler and less time consuming to just mask off the trees. So duplicate the fixed layer again and name it trees, and then draw masks around all the trees in the fore and midground. Now, create a new solid by going to Layer, New, Solid. Make it comp sized and click OK, and name it something like Noise. Go to Effects, Noise and Grain, Turbulent Noise, and expand Transform, and drop the scale to 40%. Then for the offset, set a keyframe, and at the end of the comp drag the X or first value to the right, so that the noise moves in that direction. And then holding the Alt key, click on the evolution stopwatch and type time times 50. And turn off the layer's visibility. On the trees layer, go to Effect, Distort, Displacement Map. And select the noise layer in the map layer dropdown, with effects and masks checked. Again, what we're doing should be to create barely perceptible movement, but that movement is actually fooling our brains into thinking this is not a still image. It's a bit like if you have a field of grass, there's always the tiniest bit of motion. And speaking of motion, now it's time to add a camera. Make all the layers 3D and make them all children of the fixed layer. Then feel free to padlock them so we don't accidentally move them. Then go to Layer, New, Camera. And let's also resize our comp now to 1920 by 1080. And now we can plot out our camera move. Expand the camera's transform properties, and on frame 1, set keyframes for the point of interest and position. Then on the final frame, push the camera in and set its point of interest to a building or structure. Now this might take some adjustments, and I generally end up with the position X and Y values matching up with the POI's values. Otherwise the image's skewing becomes too noticeable. But once you're happy, select the first two keyframes, right click and choose Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease Out. And do the same for the end keyframes, choosing Easy Ease In. Now that we have our movement, let's create two additional elements in 3D space to create further distractions. The goal here is to provide so much movement the audience doesn't see the static bits. So first off, let's duplicate our fixed layer again and rename this to Tower. And now mask out one of the towers. And then hit P to expose the position properties and adjust the third value, the Z position, so that it's about halfway from the camera to the background. I'm going for minus 2500. And I'm going to select the pan behind tool and move the anchor point to it. And now I'll use the horizontal and vertical gimbals to move the tower to the bottom right of the comp window. And if I just solo a few layers and preview the shot, we get a sense of parallax movement. And for the second distraction, I've got this free bird stock footage from Production Crate. And I'll just add them to the scene and make them 3D, and a child of fixed. And I'm just going to solo the layer for a moment, so I can mark when the first bird leaves the frame, which I can do by tapping on the asterisk key on the number pad. So with my camera move all set, as long as the left hand side of the bird layer is at the edge of the frame, I can now position and scale it in 3D. And they are a bit black, so go to Effects, Color Corrections, Levels, and drag the middle pointer to the left to lighten them up. All that's left to do is apply the usual quick cheats such as optical distortion, chromatic aberration and so on. I rely on my quick cheats template for this. I've made a separate tutorial all about that. And there you go. And here's all those tricks applied to Bejor. Let me know if you found this useful. Your comments really help me improve, and of course, YouTube likes engagement. I'll see you next time on Movie Match. No, wait. On Making FX.